Good morning, everybody. It's Barb Katie. How are you on this beautiful Monday morning? I'm doing really, really good. We've had frost almost every single morning this week, and I think from what the weatherman says, it's going to warm up a little bit. But it's been fun to get out and bundle up a little bit when you go for a walk instead of trying to cope with the heat. This is also my favorite time of the year with all the leaves coming down because I love to kick through the leaves as I walk. It makes a lot of noise. I don't get to see many animals because I'm such a noisy walker, but that's okay. I have a lot of fun doing it anyway. So I hope you're doing well today and looking forward to the rest of the week. I'll be heading out to my chapter after we have a chat and check in with my weight recorder and get to see everybody and hope everyone's had a really good week. What I want to talk to you about today is just a quick overview of one of my resources that I use on a regular basis that TOPS makes available to us if we choose to take advantage of it. We have some really great tools, and some of them are not quick, easy reads. It really takes some thought, some time, and I refer to them often through the years as I continue on my journey. One thing that I have found through the years I've been associated with TOPS is absolutely that health is a continuing process. Health is not a happy ever after process. As we grow, as we change, as we mature, as circumstances present themselves, our health can be in flux. And what the trick is for me is to try to maximize my health in whatever situation that presents itself. I can remember a few years back when I had torn the meniscus in my knee, and my mobility was extremely compromised because of that. I had not planned for it. It was certainly not on my agenda of things to cope with, but there it was, and it had to be dealt with. And modifications had to be made. And such is life. You know, we go through life, and perhaps we get a medical report that changes the path, the trajectory of what we thought life was going to unfold, and you have to make allowances, corrections, and adaptations. I know when my cousin, who is like my older sister, developed breast cancer, we went through a process of modification of plans, expectations, etc., as she dealt with that physical challenge in her life. And I know many others in TOPS face really challenging situations as life unfolds in ways that we never dreamed it would. But at any rate, flexibility and adaptability are essential to the game as we continue our life journey and try to make it the healthiest, most active one we can. So I just wanted to share this one resource with you. I'm not a really good presenter of props, but we're going to give this a try and just see how it goes. I'm excited to try. The book I'm talking about, my resource, is the Real Life Guide. It's called the Hands-On Pounds Off Guide, and I think that that's pretty appropriate. I don't know how many of you have this resource that TOPS provides. It's available on TOPS Store, and it's been around for several years, and it's still quite valid. Yes, there's been some nutritional updates, but essentially the information is as valid as the day it was written, and it was written by a group of professionals in the field of obesity and related fields. And I just wanted to share with you how comprehensive this book is, because at different times, based on different needs and different circumstances, I find myself going to a particular section of the book. The book has 11 chapters in it. So it's not something meant to just sit down, read through it quickly, and think you know everything there is to know. This is a reference tool that you can go back to many, many times. The first chapter is called Balanced Eating, the first section. And in this chapter, there's several things that it covers. I think this is a chapter most people go to when they first get started, because our first question when we try a new weight loss plan is, what do I eat? What can I eat? What can I not eat? What is okay? What is forbidden? Well, in TOPS, fortunately, there is no forbidden food. And what we go toward is balanced eating, so that we get what we need to fuel our bodies best as we are working on managing our weight more effectively. And the very first chapter in the book is called Nutrition Basics. And that deals with food values, different food groups, how you pick and choose from among those, and why each food group is important to general good health. And bear in mind, you always have to check with your doctor, because you may have different medical needs or situations of which you need to be aware as you're making your plans. For example, I have a son who is extremely lactose intolerant. So eating dairy is not something that he does. So he has to make certain substitutions in order to remain healthy, because the lactose can actually make him quite ill. I know some of you also have gluten allergies, and I have allergies to strawberries. So we're all different as much as we are the same. So the first chapter is Nutrition Basics. And what I did when I got this book was I looked at all the list of foods, and I marked out every one I hated. If I didn't like that food, it was not going to be on my food plan. I try to focus on foods that I enjoy eating, because I fear my success will be greater if I'm enjoying what I eat. And within every group, there are always lots of foods that I really, really enjoy. So I don't feel like I'm being punished because I'm eating something that I dislike intensely. And then the next chapter is called Pick Your Plan in this section. And what this means is there are different ways that you can approach how you're eating. The trick is to try to balance your food in the way your doctor, your dietitian, your healthcare provider feels is best for your needs as you're working through the process. And each of us come to this place at different stages. We may have had a procedure that may make it difficult to eat from all groups as robustly as others could. And we need to be more selective in what we pick and choose to eat in order to get the nutrition we need. So pick the plan that works best for you. The 3 general balance plans that TOPS recommends are the one based on the Canadian Food Pyramid, the My Plate plan, which is put out by the U.S. government, and the Exchange plan, which the American Diabetes Association puts together. These are the basic ones that we feel are well balanced. The Exchange plan, you're probably familiar with the Mediterranean diet and other plans of that type. They generally fall within that rubric as well. Balanced eating is the key. Healthy eating is the key. So with that, you get some ideas of how to set things up for you. And if your doctor has certain restrictions he wishes you to follow, you adapt accordingly for your good health. And then the next chapter in that section on balanced eating is called the 28-day meal plan. And this is just one example of how you can set up your menus for a month as you plan how you're going to proceed through the month. Planning is something that I struggle with particularly, and what I have found works for me, and I cannot speak for anyone else, but I tend to eat roughly probably the same 2 or 3 breakfasts every day of the week. Um, I get in a routine. I start my day in that way. It's uh, just a good way to begin the day. I don't have to think about it. What am I going to have for breakfast? Basically, no, I'm going to have pretty much the same thing every day for breakfast with a little variation. Lunch is pretty much the same way. I tend to go for basically the same thing for lunch. And that leaves only dinner then for me to really think about and plan for me and whoever else is joining me for dinner, because, I have family and friends popping in from time to time. And it seems like I never really get to eat alone, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes not so much. But that's okay. I enjoy cooking, so that really helps because there are less leftovers when I have company come in for dinner. So that's what I do is I basically plan uh, my dinners out carefully for the week, knowing what my breakfast and lunch will be and what will be available for dinner. I'm not too much of a snacker. I find that snacking gets me in trouble, but that's just me. You may be someone that really needs or enjoys snacks for a variety of reasons. It's balanced eating that suits your needs. It's what we're going to aim at. Then, after you've dealt with the nutritional aspect of the journey, one of the things that and here is probably the section I refer to often. It's change for the better. Something has to change in order for changes to occur that we want. You cannot keep doing the same thing repeatedly and expect a different result. It just, as much as I'd like to think that's true, it's not. You have to make a change. And one of the things that I think very often happens to many of us, we get locked into a sort of a vicious cycle where we eat something we know we're not supposed to eat, then we beat ourselves up for it emotionally, and then we repent and we get back on track. And then all of a sudden, before we know it, we repeat the cycle. We eat something we shouldn't have. We feel really bad. We beat ourselves up, and so it goes, and so it goes. And so I find this chapter one that I refer to often to break that cycle, to help me look at more realistically where my issues are, what tends to be leading me in that direction, and what modifications I can make to help me get through them. So this is a favorite chapter for me. Another one that I look at very often and remind myself of in changing for the better is to enjoy the ride, to enjoy what I'm doing to be healthier and more active in my life. It's not just about the number on the scale. It's about your total life experience and how you're feeling better as you go through this process. Early on in TOPS, someone said to me, and I think of it very often, they made the remark, if you lose your weight and lose your health in the process, what have you really accomplished? And that's very true. So I've always, at whatever weight I am, tried to live my healthiest, best life in that moment as I get better and better every single day, because that's what I'm hoping will happen for all of us. And enjoying the ride is certainly part of the process. We tend to want to do things that we enjoy. The next thing is one that I think lots of us sort of groan when we see, and that has to do with moving more and how to remain as fit as you possibly can at whatever age you are. Flexibility, mobility, balance, strength, all are aspects of an active life, and they require effort on our part. No, we don't have to go out and do jumping jacks or strenuous strength training, but it is important to make sure we maximize what we are capable of doing every single day as much as we can in order to live an active, independent life. And if you've ever tried to rehab from an injury or surgery, you know that it takes a lot of work to regain mobility, flexibility, strength that you have lost during a period of illness and inactivity. So the more we can move on a daily basis, the better off we are. I know a lot of you use step counters to help encourage you to make sure that you stay active and keep moving as much as you can throughout the day. I also encourage you to be more perhaps inefficient in the way you do things to increase the possibility of movement. Making several trips where one could have sufficed may be a better choice because it keeps you up, active, and moving about. And that can be beneficial in the long run. You don't always have to plan everything out all to be as efficient as possible when it comes to movement. Moving more and sitting less is helpful very, very often. I find just standing. I've been in a position where I've rearranged my office a little bit in the last few months, and I actually now am standing at the computer as opposed to just sitting all day long. And that's been amazingly helpful, just that one small change, because it takes a little bit more energy to stand up and do stuff than it does to sit down in a chair and do it. So again, I look at this chapter to remind me that it's important to be able to continue to stay active in my life in order to participate more fully in it. And so then we go to chapter 8, and this is really important. This chapter focuses on the facts about obesity. And obesity is a disease, an actual disease, and has been recognized as such since 1996, which many doctors still don't fully comprehend, that this, like diabetes, like heart conditions, like high blood pressure, this is an actual disease that affects millions of people in this country, and for which there is no known cure, and for which treatment is extremely difficult. This has so many helpful factual elements in it. I was talking with some members of the Obesity Society just a few days ago, and they were sharing with me that in the last 25 years, they have discovered that there are hundreds of markers genetically that point to the disease of obesity and the complications of dealing with the disease and finding an effective treatment for it. And many of these markers are actually in our brains. And how many times have we said jokingly to each other, "I've got to get it in my head"? Well, it turns out that's not exactly an incorrect statement, because there's a lot of stuff for some of us who deal with this disease that doesn't fire exactly the same as our thinner friends and family members. We are different. One of the clearest manifestations of that occurred once when I was at an IRD with a young man who had Pratt-Willi syndrome, which is a condition that suppresses feelings of satiety, and his appetite was always just rampant. He was truly feeling hungry, all because of a mechanical uh, genetic component that did not translate society correctly after he had eaten a meal. And they're finding more and more that to less severe degrees, for many people that deal with obesity, some of this is going on, which is encouraging because if you know root cause, then you can move beyond treating the symptom and actually get to root cause, which means that perhaps in the future we will be able to actually effectively control this extremely debilitating and exhausting disease. So, facts on obesity I look at very often. The other thing in here, in your health, that really I'm profoundly interested in is childhood obesity. I come from a family, as some of you may, where you can see obesity sort of runs in the family. And very often people have said, well, is it nature? Is it nurture? Does the child have the problem because they inherited it? Or does the child have the problem because of the environment? The answer is yes. We can do some things to modify behaviors to help deal with the tendency to most efficiently use food, because the disease of obesity does in fact seem to make people much more efficient burners, and they don't burn as often at as high a rate as some of the more slender people in the community. But be that as it may, in my own life, rearing my own children, and then with my grandchildren, I have learned to make certain modifications that give them some healthier choices and don't put pressure on them to eat beyond the point where their body is telling them they've had enough. We are not members of the Clean Plate Club in this family. And I was raised in a Clean Plate Club family where very often, with the best intentions in the world, my mom would say to us, well, if you don't clean your plate, you can't have dessert. Well, I really wanted dessert, and I didn't particularly like Brussels sprouts. Not that Brussels sprouts really gave me a weight problem. It's like green beans and lettuce. I don't think I ever ate enough green beans or lettuce to create a weight problem. But you see what I'm saying. I try to look at food as fuel for my grandchildren rather than rewards, because then that gets into a whole different emotional association, psychological association with food that has nothing to do with hunger. And it's sometimes very hard to distinguish between appetite and hunger based on what you're hungry for. You may be hungry for affection, and food may translate to affection for you. So that was an interesting chapter, and I look at it very often as my grandchildren now are, oh my goodness, they're getting to be teenagers. My grandson is learning to drive a car, much to his father's horror. And then, oops, I messed up. Almost got them all right. And then we go to the next section in Obesity on Your Health. And this talks about diabetes and how prevalent diabetes seems to be in those who also suffer from the disease of obesity. And management and control of the two are quite similar. And usually if you can impact in a positive way one, you can impact in a positive way the other. And as many of you have found out, medication can play a significant role in the ability to be successful in the journey, because some medications have adverse side effects, not just dealing with diabetes, but with other chronic illnesses as well that we need to be aware of. Again, information in here to help us at least have informed conversation with our healthcare providers when we go in to visit. And then the last chapter, and it's the most exciting chapter. There, I got it. It's in green. It's the chapter that deals with sustaining the weight loss and maintaining it through time. And the chapter is called Keep Off Pounds Sensibly. And for a lot of us, this is the ultimate challenge. How many of you have lost weight successfully before and then regained it and then lost it again and regained it? Well, this section deals with some techniques to help sustain that loss. And we have such empowering examples and tops. At IRD in July, a lady who had been at COPS for 56 years was acknowledged for her success. And there were many other COPS that had completed 25 and 50 consecutive years of weight maintenance honored as well. It is possible if we're diligent, if we're patient, if we continue to learn and stay active. And I absolutely use this book so often to help remind me not of just what the facts are, but of the possibilities for my best life are. And I think all of us would benefit by using this as the resource tool it was meant to be, and check back in every once in a while. It is what helps me stay grounded when I get so much chatter from the world at large on the next best greatest diet to come out on the market that's guaranteed to take all my worries and cares away, and I won't have to do anything in the process. I've yet to find the magic bullet, or the gun from which to fire it, or the direction in which to point it, to assure that I can just manage my health without effort on my part. And I think you're probably the same way. We know that we need to be active participants in our own lives. And I'm just going to leave you with that. Be an active participant in your life. Be happy with the journey you have mapped out for yourself. Change course if you need to. Check out different scenery if you like. But keep a positive attitude. And remember, you need to be hands-on in every aspect of your life. Have a really great Monday, and I will check in with you later. Bye for now.